Peace. Welcome to the YouTube live book reading of Clinical. I'm testing. Let me go live. All right. Peace. Welcome to the YouTube live book reading of Sacred Sounds by Ted Andrews. Magic and healing through words and music. Peace and highest heart love. Welcome. All right. I'm your moderator and narrator, Uriel Riley. And this is one of my favorite books of all time. We're going to dive into it today. Just start off briefly. And here's a little about the author. Ted Andrews is a full-time author, student, and teacher in the metaphysical and spiritual fields. He conducts seminars, symposiums, and workshops and lectures throughout the country on many facets of ancient mysticism. Ted works with past life analysis, auric interpretation, numerology, the tarot, and the Kabbalah as methods of developing and enhancing inner potential. He is a clairvoyant and certified in spiritual mediumship, basic hypnosis, and acupressure. Ted is also involved in the study and use of herbs as an alternative path. In addition to writing several books, he is a contributing author to various metaphysical magazines. Peace, welcome, YouTube. All right, so Sacred Sound. This part is a brief dedication he posted in here. To everyone who ever heard a story that thrilled them, a song that stirred them, or an idea that changed them. This is so dear to me. Because when I think about this, I start thinking about the ending of this book, which helped me to write probably one of my most well-known poems called The Strong Overcome. And I was inspired to write that after watching my daughter. She was just 2 years old, and we were stepping up to the line to jump into a 12-foot pool of water, and you could only go one at a time. And we stepped up, and I'm holding her hand, and they're like, no, you can only go one at a time. And she had been watching all the previous people and when they jumped, so she got it. Now, what happened after was pure bravery, pure magic. And it would be a red light to stop, and a green light would turn on when someone could jump. So the red light was on as we stepped up, and all of a sudden, after they had said, well, you can only go one at a time, I was like, man, she's only 2, but people were looking and staring all over, at, wow, that's a little girl about to jump in there. Afterward, people would ask, like, how old is she? Oh my gosh, she's so tall, she's beautiful. And so the red light was on, and then the green light came on, and Isis just jumped. She just jumped right into the water, and people were all over. I mean, it was a large line just looking. Oh my gosh, that little girl just jumped in. But I had taught her to swim from the beginning. And if you ask her now, you say, Bubbles or Isis, when did you learn to swim? She wouldn't even be able to tell you. I've asked her this before. She was like, "Oh, well, I've just always been able to swim," and that was a lesson. It was like when you embed certain things in from the beginning with our children, you can conceptualize the progression, and it's unlimited, instilling them with the right information from the beginning. With that, here we go. My guide gave reverence in the harmonic vibrational manual to my teachers. Here's some acknowledgements from Ted Andrews. I would like to thank those who have added to my appreciation and love for music. These include my parents and also my teachers, particularly my first piano instructor, Mrs. Allison, who showed me how to have fun with the piano, and my grade school music teacher, Susan Gilbert, who demonstrated the power of weaving music and story together. I also wish to thank Virginia Blakelock and her parents. Without the inspiration of Virginia's playing and the loving spiritual gift of the piano from her parents, a beautiful part of my life might never have come to be. My gratitude, my thoughts, and my prayers are with them always. All right, we are in a new book reading in a new year. Sacred Sounds. Thank you so much for being here as we start into the beginning. All right, here we go. Introduction. The heart of the lost traditions. Every society expresses its truths in the manner most acceptable and most easily understood by its members. When explored, the truths of one society are not as different from the others as we often believe. There are common threads and methods which run through them all. At the heart of all the lost traditions was the teaching of the power of the word, the ability to use sound, voice, and music to create changes in oneself or in others. Every society, tradition, and religion has had teachings both magical and wondrous. The relaying and demonstrating of these wondrous teachings fell to individuals who were schooled in the natural and spiritual laws of the universe. These priests, priestesses, magicians, regardless of how they were labeled in their society, used the secret arts of sound, music, and words to teach, heal, and enlighten. They imbued their words with the power of imagination and the power of music, the myths, the stories, the poems, and songs were used to bridge the different worlds of life and the different modes of consciousness. They can be used to do so again. This tradition of the word is not truly lost. It is obscure, but it still lives within the tales, the myths, and the songs of the past. Remnants exist and can be gathered and re-express the new life of today. The heart of the lost tradition of the word still lives within the imagination of all. Let there be light is the divine prompting to awaken and use the creative imagination. The Elizabethan writers used the phrase intending the mind. This intending is the fixing of the mind upon something, focusing with a clear and steady flame, a flame that brings illumination. We must intend the mind to create new expressions of this lost tradition. We must fill our words, myths, and music with the power of the imagination. All words and sounds are essentially magical, and yet the paradox is that they must also be rendered magical. The words and sounds are seeds holding the essence of magic and light. Unless those seeds are nurtured and helped to take root, the magic either lies dormant or it grows within our life in peculiar ways. The lost tradition of the word is a living, creative art. It involves understanding and using the power of sound, music, and words. It involves the art of magical storytelling to help ourselves and others leap from the endless cycles and spirals of day to day life and find a direct and quicker passage to achievement. It involves opening to heal and be healed through music and sound. It involves opening to seership through the sheer force of poetry and song. It involves opening the magical visions and dreams of life. The tradition of the word is the fairy chest of treasures. The treasures within can be used by each of us in our own way. The treasures can be exchanged for something wanted or needed, or they may be enjoyed for themselves. This chest, this tradition, comes with great responsibility. It demands concentration. It demands that we learn to use, not waste, the treasures. It demands understanding the profound influence sound has and how it affects all of us. You must remember that a tradition is not a religion. It is a tool by which you can unfold the creative potential that lives within. It is a tool to create circumstances in your normal day to day life that can open the doors of your potential. The lost tradition of the word is the riddle of paradox. Once learned, there must be a joy in its sharing. It is something that you keep even while you give it away. You must never hoard it and never give it directly, or its virtue will be lost. You must use it to stay upon the higher path, and yet use it also to know when to step off. You can work with it to have a way of your own and to have it entirely. You can take the old and express it anew. There is a kind of depth to every story when it leaves the speaker and becomes impaled for all time on clay tablets or the written and printed page. To take it from the page, to create it again into living substance, this is the challenge. Ruth Sawyer, The Way of the Storyteller. Let us begin Sacred Sounds. Part 1. as you see. The secret power of the word. In the spheres, a wonderful harmony of sound is being produced eternally. And from that source have all things been created. Florence Crane. Thank you so much for being here. We're pushing towards 600 subs here on this peaceful part of YouTube where we read books and learn from masters. So thank you so much for being here. Hi, it's Art Love. All right, chapter 1, page 3. Thank you so much for the likes and subs. We really are doing it here in this peaceful part of YouTube where we read books and learn from masters. Reading the new book for this month and year to start out, Sacred Sound by Ted Andrews. Chapter 1, page 3. Sacred sound, whether as prayer, music, song, incantation, or chants, is a vital force which permeates every aspect of creation. In the New Testament, the book of John states, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." John 1:1. In the Ethiopian cosmology, God is said to have created both him and herself and the universe through the utterance of her in his own name. In Egypt, Thoth used words to create the universe, calling out over the waters, "Come unto me." Even in the early Babylonian cosmology, the gods, mothered by Tiamat in the waters of life, did not emerge as beings until they were named. Sound has always been considered a direct link between humanity and the divine. At some point, all of the ancient mystery schools taught their students to use the use of sound as a creative and healing force. It is considered the oldest form of healing. And it was a predominant part of the early teachings of the Greeks, Chinese, East Indians, Tibetans, Egyptians and Africans, American Indians, Mayas, and the Aztecs. The Chinese healers used singing stones, thin flat pieces of jade which would emit various musical tones when struck. One of these tones was designed the kung, or great tone of nature. It corresponds in our own musical scale to the tone of F, or F sharp. The Sufis consider Hu to be the ultimate creative sound. The Tibetans considered the tones of F sharp, A, and G to be the three powerful and sacred tones of the world. Om, Om, and Amen were believed to by many ancient societies and traditions to represent all the sounds the human voice was capable of expressing and manifesting in the physical world. The Essenes, a third sect of Jews living in the world at the time of the Master Christ Jesus, were dynamic healers. Their name comes from the word Asaya, which means to heal or to doctor. They were schooled in the mystic and healing arts of sound and nature. Much of what we know of the past regarding the teachings of sacred sound comes through the musical and architectural remnants of those times. Sculptures in Baghdad, dating around 4000 BCE, show several musicians playing harps and flutes, music and sound as an art form as was well developed by the Egyptians, Hindus, Chinese, and Japanese. By the time Egypt built the pyramids and sphinxes, it had organized choruses of 12,000 voices and orchestras of 600 pieces. Many believed it was through their use of directed and controlled sound that much of the heaviest labor was accomplished on the pyramids. And as you see right here, live from the light, we have the reliefs of this. See, they're playing sacred sound right here. This is a harp that she's playing. And we know that this right here is the covenant of them establishing and building the pyramids or Myrrh. These are the exact reliefs. And this is Harem Akhet being established, or the Great Sphinx. And this is the Great Pharaoh that did these works. And you see them right here in live 3D. This is real life. See the new hummingbird as it's posted here. Oh, yes. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the likes and subs. We're doing it. New book, new year. The 1-1 portal is opened up and we're giving it to you. All right. So, after that sacred information and knowledge, let's continue on. Page 4, down at the bottom of Sacred Sounds. Many believe it was through their use of directed and controlled sound that much of the heaviest labor was accomplished on the pyramids. From the early Greeks come some of the earliest scientific observations on sound in its true nature and effects. The Greek master Orpheus was to many of an ancient mystics the theologian par excellence. He was a poet, a musician, a theologian, and even an interpreter of the gods. He was considered the first of the world's singers. The Greek mythologies speak of him as the son of Apollo, the father of truth, wisdom, and divination. His mother was Calliope, one of the muses. It was from her that he received his gift of music, music capable of moving immovable objects. Orpheus is often considered the great hierophant of the Dionysian mysteries. He instructed the Greeks in magic and music, and the power of his healing voice and music was ascribed to certain magical formula, incantations, and charms that are inscribed in the ancient Orphic tablets. The name Orpheus means he who heals by the light, and it is quite probable that it was a title of particular level of healing achievement through the application of sacred sound. Initiation into the Orphic mysteries performed by priestly sorcerers and healers was supposed to spare the soul the cycle of reincarnation. To avoid new birth, certain magical formula were learnt by heart. The dead man was allowed to drink the waters of a living spring, whereupon he cast off his carnal nature in which sin inhered, and thus purified, reigned among the heroes. Rhinoc Orpheus on Orpheus. That's Rhinoc. The Pythagorean and Platonic schools of wisdom would arise partly from the Orphic mystery teachings. Pythagoras created the modern musical octave in an attempt to reveal the relationship between musical notes and the mathematical principles of the universe. Other Greeks and Romans would add to our modern awareness of the physical and metaphysical effects of sound. Aristotle presented humanity with one of the earliest theories of how sound was transmitted through the air. Polio, circa 20 BCE, lent tremendous insight into the acoustics of buildings and the power of echo and reverberation. With reverberation, diffusion of sound occurs. A reverberated sound in one which re echoes many times. Thus, these reverberations impinge upon the ear and the body, giving the impression of being within a sea of sound. It is this effect that was created through strong, repeated incantations and chants, filling the temple or room with the force or energy being invoked. This helped to create a space acceptable for its actual physical manifestations or for the raising of the consciousness of the individual to a sense of unity with the divine force. The Greek amphitheaters exhibited highly advanced knowledge of acoustical properties. They were free from noise. They increased intelligibility of speech, and they retain the richness of the music. The Greeks even constructed shells to further direct and reflect sounds in specific patterns. This would eventually carry over into the Gothic cathedrals constructed by masons schooled in such techniques. The chants and songs would lift the consciousness of the individual to new heights. Many societies had forbidden certain kinds of music, especially in the formative years of the children. There was more extensive awareness of how sound played upon all aspects of humanity and could trigger problems in health and balance. In those societies which practiced musical restraint, part of the overall education of the individual included training in the musical arts. By the time of the Roman Empire, many of the restraints were no longer practiced, except in the more closed societies and traditions. It is unique that one of the most powerful emperors of Rome, Julius Caesar, recognized the influence of sound upon the well being of people to the extent that he went so far as to issue a noise ordinance and even had straw laid over the city streets to soften the noise. And we'll pause. Well, let's keep going. All right, let's keep going. Since the time of the early Greeks and the Roman Empire, the teachings of sacred sound and the power of the word has been passed down through what we now know generally call the bardic tradition. Through the Greek rhapsodists, the English bards, the French troubadours, and African griots, the Norse skalds and Navajo singers, the power to teach, heal, and raise consciousness through sound, music, and voice has been kept alive. Although today most people are either unaware or simply ignore the significance and preponderance of sound within their lives, this ancient knowledge is even more important within a technological society in which we are constantly bombarded by extraneous sounds. Sound is a major contributing factor to our present state of consciousness. Ding! We have to put a pin there because that is a sacred part, right? I'll read it again. Sound is a major contributing factor to our present state of consciousness. The difference between the random sounds of daily life and the focused use of sacred sound is that the latter produces harmony rather than dissonance. When we learn to produce and direct sacred sound through our energy centers, chakras, to the physical body, balance occurs, which energizes our entire energetic system. We then have greater access to our true essence and its manifestation within our day to day life circumstances. We have greater health on all levels, and we can disrupt negative qualities and patterns as they arise within our physical and subtle bodies. We transmute them into positive ones. We begin to direct the alchemical processes of life. And it all begins with understanding the principles of sacred sound. We'll pause right here. Thank you so much, Highest Heart Love. We're beginning the new book of the year, the ever sacred sounds. We'll pause at the bottom of page 7. Thank you so much for the likes and subs. Sacred sound. Discover the magical power of singing, speaking, and storytelling. Magic and healing through words and music. Thank you so much. Highest Heart Love. Oh, much appreciation. Deck and Frost, Highest Heart Love. Thank you to all the light workers, all of you readers, book readers, and authors. Highest Heart Love. We are now into the new book, shaking it up on YouTube, reading books and learning from masters. Thank you. That's right. Jordan Peterson also wrote a book. Thank you so much. Highest Heart Love. Thank you for being here. Let's have a glass of love water, right? As you go out on your beautiful day, you've begun the new reading. Sacred Sound, one of my favorite books of all time. So, love and honor and reverence to our friends and family, to all of you that produce the sacred sound, all the light workers. Oh, it's a glass of love water. I love you. Mm. I love you. I love you. I love you. Highest heart, love, and honor. I want you to have a wonderful day. We are doing it, right? Highest heart, love. When we reconvene, we will pick up in this first chapter of Sacred Sound. So thank you so much for the likes and subs and the shares. Highest heart, love. I want you to have a wonderful day healing the people. Happy Wednesday, right? For all you that are meditating, meditation Wednesday, highest heart, love. Love you. Sacred Sound. I love you. I love you. You know it. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Highest heart, love. I'll see you soon. Peace, peace.